This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. And
gear up for a hilarious night when Dane Cook returns to the Island Event Center. You can see his legendary style of stand-up comedy live at Treasure Island on Friday, October 24th. All the details now at ticasino.com.
Do we have a sounder? We've had the Breakfast Wars. We've had the Chicken Wars. Do we have a sounder for the Sausage Wars?
We don't, but we might need one.
We might need a Sausage Wars.
This is big, I think.
Sounder. This is massive. Via StarTribune.com. A former Hormel Foods employee made off with top secret sausage recipes and market intel before joining regional competitor Johnsonville. A new federal lawsuit alleges the Austin, Minnesota-based maker of breakfast sausage and more accused Johnsonville and two former Hormel employees of conspiring to, quote, unlawfully obtain Hormel's trade secrets, end quote, per the suit. Hormel is asking for the return and deletion of confidential sausage data as well as unspecified monetary damages. From the lawsuit, the sausage market, and I think we knew this, is increasingly competitive.
Oh.
It's cutthroat.
Yes.
And improper use of confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information or wrongful competition or solicitation could cause a manufacturer significant competitive economic disadvantage. No response from Johnsonville. So this is a Dairyland diary in a way, too, is it?
It kind of is, yeah.
Hormel also did not immediately provide further comment Thursday. So here's the background, apparently. June 2023, veteran Hormel employee Brett Sims joins Johnsonville as chief supply chain officer. Sims allegedly starts trying to poach other Hormel employees to join him at the Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin-based sausage company.
Sheboygan Falls?
Correct. Where is that?
Near the Dells, I think.
In an apparent violation of a non-solicitation agreement. One of the employees that Sims reached out to was Jeremy Rummel, who joined Johnsonville this spring after 25 years with Hormel. Before telling Hormel he was joining a competitor, Rummel allegedly sent product formulas, processing procedures, acquisition target information, and market strategy information as well to his personal email. Hormel confronted Rummel, who confessed to sending the information to his personal email. Rummel then went to Sims' house. This is like cloak and dagger. This is going to end up being a 30 for 30, isn't it? If not a series, a 6-part series.
Dateline.
With the intent to share details of his interview with Hormel and develop a plan to protect his new role at Johnsonville. I have to believe we got people with connections to the sausage industry.
Community.
And the sausage community. And so if you know anything about this, hit the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. As always, it's available via 64686. That's 64686.
How about being willing to put, allegedly, your 25-year sausage career on the line?
Made him a deal too good off
like that, I guess. But I'm also a little confused. I understand if it's like acquisition stuff and business stuff that you're wondering about.
Yeah.
Recipe stuff, when Johnsonville is its own kind of iconic brand and Hormel, same thing. You know, I assume they both have their own distinct flavor. I'm sure I've had them both. I know I've had them both. But recipe stuff, like, are they all looking for the same sausage? Like, does Hormel have one that nobody else has, like the original Coca-Cola flavor, right? Which was always
correct.
One of those secrets that was carefully protected. Like, I get the business stuff that you might want to steal if you are going to go down that road, but the recipe. Johnsonville knows how to make a great sausage. They don't need any recipe.
Well, that's possible, I guess. Should we call it the Wiener Wars?
Wiener Wars is good.
Alliteration, obviously.
Yeah, why not? The Wiener Wars.
But I would love to hear from the sausage community.
We need to make sure we know.
Because I bet you there's a lot of people out there who know a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. They know how the sausage is made.
That's what we've all been waiting for, correct?
Yes.
100% true.
We need to. I'm not going to name the Wiener Wars. I'm not going to title the podcast The Wiener Wars, if anybody's wondering.
Kessler would like that.
He would like that, yeah.
He'd have no problem with that.
I'm disappointed I didn't have the Kessler page up so I could do that.
It's all about the wiener.
Giving kids laptops and unlimited internet is a huge issue that contributed or is contributing to the gambling problem. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it, right? Yeah, and again, that's not going away. Internet's not going away. Nobody here involved in gambling ads or whatever are breaking any laws. It's what they're doing is legal. I'm just here again to try to have us take a long, hard look at this and understand what we might have wrought, and then how you best move forward. Part of it for me is just following the story. Is just saying, okay, well, how concerning is this? What do these numbers tell us? And how much of it? Because you could probably make the argument that this is more about technology than the desire to bet, because the desire to bet has always existed.
Yeah.
It's just the technology obviously makes everything easier. And what was it? Whatever technology allows these betting outfits to, in real time, put at your fingertips, you can do, again, 10 bets a minute, basically. You can do whatever amount you want. For me, what I've complained more about is when, and I think this does contribute to the problem. Take an outfit like ESPN. They too have said, well, it's legal. There's a lot of money here. We got ESPN bets. We're going for it. We're not going to pretend anymore. It's out there. That, I still argue, doesn't mean that you have to present as much of the story as I think ESPN is starting to do. The exploration of a matchup, of a game, through that prism about here's the 7 bets, right, that are the most interesting. You can, I would argue, still explore, because in the end, I admit it, as a person who's not a big bettor, I'm more interested in the stories that just help me prepare for a big matchup.
Yeah.
Right? What are the elements of this game that interest me? If you have to always present them through the over-under on how many points Halliburton's going to score.
That's where I was going.
I don't care.
I know. That's usually when I start to do other things.
Yeah, that doesn't mean there can't be a component for it, a show about it, a place for it. But I would like to see greater separation of church and state there. But that's probably not very realistic at this point. We've played a game on this show for many, many years. Same on X, called We Didn't Need 'Em. Sometimes I mean it. Sometimes I don't. I think I might mean it in this particular case. We'll discuss who we're talking about and then prepare for Russo Radio at 4:30. Jair Alexander dream died yesterday. He has signed a 1-year incentive-laden deal with the Baltimore Ravens. In fact, I think there was some intrigue on X where who's the Ravens quarterback? Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Basically challenged the GM. Go get him. And the Ravens did. And I'm here to tell you, it looks like an exceedingly reasonable deal to me. It's
$6 million.
Well, I think the base is $4 million with $2 million in incentives. So it can be, I think, at the higher end, he can end up being paid as much as $6 million.
That's inviting.
For me, it is too. It's what we talked about was 1-year deal, throw in a bunch of incentives where you don't have that much to lose, quite frankly, if he ends up missing half the season, which he tends to do. Now, when I brought this up with Seifert, he was bored with it. He thought the Vikings would be bored with it too, and he was right. And I haven't done, maybe they went to Aaron Jones, and Jones said, toxic. Don't get near him. He's past his prime. It's over. I have no idea. You have to do your intel.
Yeah, that's good intel.
But the Ravens have got a pretty good rep, too, I think, when it comes to acquiring talent and, attempting, I guess you could say, manageable, acceptable risks. And that sounds like a hell of a deal for me. So I hope the Vikings don't regret it. And I who knows? Because part of my hesitation was, well, if you've got another team that's willing to give him more than he should get at this point, like a couple of years, and a much bigger base, then okay. Then no, I don't want to go that deep into the water for Jair Alexander. But if this was the offer, if the information that's been reported is accurate, I think I have it right. I think it's $4 million base with incentives that could go to $6 million. I say that's a bargain, is it not?
When I saw that number yesterday, I thought the same thing. Thought that there must have been no market for him, or he really wanted to go to Baltimore. Those are my two reactions, because that seems like,
yeah. Now
maybe he is just a guy, and Brett Blakemore and I would argue about him constantly, because the last few years it was, well, maybe we'll get Jair back, and I go, why? JJ's been cooking him. Right? Like
right.
He bothered me as a Vikings fan because of his, false narratives about how good he was. But I didn't watch the all 22 of him every single week like some other people. But clearly, I guess I answered my own question. There wasn't much of a market for him if that was the offer that he was willing to take on June 19th. Or June 18th, I guess it was, because it was yesterday. Because they still have a cornerback need, obviously.
They do.
Right?
Now, people keep bringing up to me Asante Samuel. I don't know where I don't know where he is in terms of availability, what he's got left, etc. What you got to remember about Jair is I don't think the Packers themselves, in releasing him, didn't say they had any question about his ability when he played. It was availability.
Yeah.
And over the course of his career, he's missed half the games. And so what is that about? Is it his body just isn't holding up? Is it breaking down? Is it, he wants more, he wants to become an NFL load management player? And every sort of, wound that he gets, he wants to milk it and miss a couple of games? I don't know. That's all fair game. But I just think that I still view us as being a corner short of where I'd like them to be. Now, maybe they have a couple names out there that they're waiting on. And
Samuel might be one of them.
And he might be,
Just reading a story here that quotes your guy Jeremy Fowler talking about he's probably not going to sign until late July, so in about another month, as teams are reporting. And the Vikings have signed guys that late, right? Wasn't Shaq Griffin a year ago a late guy? They signed somebody late.
That's true.
And now, obviously, there was an injury last year in camp.
Who's the veteran we had last year? I don't think bringing back.
What's
I can
his
see
name?
him, and I can't even.
Gilmore.
Yeah, Gilmore.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's been signed by anybody yet, has he?
I don't think so either, but I'll look.
But I thought was serviceable. Although I think he got hurt late, and
he was probably the late guy I was thinking about.
He might
Gilmore.
be. Yeah, that might have been it.
It wasn't Griffin.
So I don't know. Maybe they say, well, we got a couple people in our back pocket. We're still going to be fine. I wouldn't wait. In other words, if I could get Alexander now, I'd get him at that price. Again, not at any price. But at that price, I'm going, that doesn't scare me at all. That's exactly the way to do it. Gives him a chance to sort of, to sort of fix his brand, prove he can stay healthy, and then obviously get a bigger payoff if he has a great season this season. And then you might lose him at that point if you can't afford him, but who cares? I mean, in the meantime, you get
when you've got
a really
Lombardi.
Good cornerback, that can definitely play. So that's the we didn't need him for today, even though technically he was never with us, because a lot of the didn't need him are players who used to play for us. In this case, it's a player we've talked about who might well indeed be available. One other item from the A section, I don't know. It's where the A section and the toy department merge, I guess, to a certain extent. Dateline, Chavez Ravine, Los Angeles, California, immigration and customs enforcement agents attempted to access Dodger Stadium this morning, but were denied entry by the team. Here's the statement that the Dodgers posted via X. This morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. Tonight's game will be played as scheduled. While the stadium grounds are affiliated with the team, the parking areas are owned by former Dodgers owner Frank McCourt, according to the Los Angeles Times. Images of government vehicles quickly spread on social media, prompting widespread speculation and criticism from fans, many of whom question the agent's presence at the stadium. Apparently, the backdrop to this is that the team is finally, I guess, prepared to break their silence or its silence on the ongoing federal immigration raids in L.A. Operations that have left much of the team's Latino fan base on edge. And apparently they had not commented up till now and have received sharp criticism for that. It's become kind of a political flashpoint. Only one player to date has spoken out about the raids. Now it appears, I guess on Saturday, the singer Neza, are you familiar with Neza?
I might be. I don't know.
Defied the team's reported request to perform the national anthem in English, instead singing the Star-Spangled Banner in Spanish before a home game. And her performance coincided with widespread protests across metro Los Angeles against what critics call a mass deportation program promoted by Trump and federal officials. So the plot thickens. I mean, we had that brief period. Remember when it looked like DJ Trump was doing the Sawanga backpedal on some of the roundups, right? That, well, for all the wrong reasons. He said, well, I'm getting heat from the farming community and the hotel community that you're hurting us because you're taking away good workers. So Trump, I think it was a great education into how his mind works. So how do you get to him? You get to him because the big shots or management or the people doing the hiring and firing are saying, well, this is going to kind of hurt us, as opposed to appealing to Trump by saying, well, a lot of these individuals are being round up, as you're hearing out of the farming community and out of the hotel community, are good people who've lived here for, I think he said the quote from him was like 20, 25 years. So, but that, of course, doesn't resonate with him about how you're affecting those individuals. In his mind, it's, well, how are you affecting these industries, right? But now I think he's reversed. He's done a reverse Sawanga. Now it's, I think we're back to all hands on deck. Let's get as many people as we can. We're going to continue to get rid of all the criminals, all the rapists, all the murderers, right? All the bettors, illegal bettors who are making death threats to Los Angeles Dodgers pitchers. And maybe this is another example of it, hitting attempting to, because if you're trying to create a station at the Dodgers in the parking lots, one would presume, I guess, we're going to camp out here until tonight.
Yeah.
When the game's being played, correct?
I would think so.
Sounds like?
Yeah, pretty much. And they didn't let him in.
So there you have it.
That's interesting that I just assumed everybody had to let them in because they're federal agents in a way, aren't they?
That's what it's a great point. I would assume it must mean they didn't really have the paperwork.
Oh, interesting.
About any one individual.
Yeah, that's what it would have been.
And what does that tell you? It's a fishing expedition. It's like, well, we'll just grab him. We're going to grab him. We'll ask questions later. Yeah, I think we know that guy. I think we've heard about that guy being a dangerous murderer. What's he doing hanging out at Dodger Stadium, for God's sake? We're going to grab him in. We're going to bring him in, and we'll ask questions later. We'll get him first, and then we'll ask questions later, correct? So that would be the next step is, does Trump hear about this and say, go back out there? We can't stop. But my gut is they must not have had the paperwork to be allowed to go on that broad of a fishing expedition. Doesn't sound like they went to Dodger Stadium big shots and said, hey, here's the 3 people we're looking for. We think we have reason to believe they're going to be here later today, right? That's what you're going to think of. By the way, one of the most underrated suspense films ever made. Largely is the wrong term. In part, took place at Candlestick Park, which is gone now, right? Or did it get
I'm pretty sure
imploded?
It's gone. Yeah.
Candlestick Park. It's a film. It's a black and white film called Experiment in Terror.
Jeez.
Oh, it's good. And it's
no secrets there.
No secrets there. Glenn Ford, old-time actor, is the detective who's trying to find a really sinister bad guy. I can see him. I'll get the actor's name here after the break. Who has kidnapped a woman, actually the daughter of one of the main characters. And I guess you could say the climax of the film takes place in and around the Stick, Candlestick Park. Not Chavez Ravine, but Candlestick Park. A very good. Rent it tonight. Experiment in Terror. Ross Martin is the bad guy.
Okay.
Ross Martin plays the bad guy. He's got a creepy, he's got a heavy breathing, almost an asthmatic problem. Oh, it's juicy. It was, and it was a little controversial for its time for reasons I don't want to go into right now. Experiment in Terror.
I'll let you know. If
I have a hunch you're not going to rent it.
In between Game 6 of Pacers and Thunder.
Russo Radio. I wonder if he's ever seen the film. We'll find out now. A number of people are reminding us that that Candlestick Park is very much standing.
Is it really?
I'll take their word for it. I honestly didn't remember an implosion. But I don't know if what it would be used for at this particular point. But that's what I'm being told. Questions for Russo Radio? Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line as we speak. 64686. Dr. Dan's inbox at 5:30. Email Guardsy, jg@kfan.com. Russo, here's my stat to you. You being you might.
By the way, that's wrong.
The Stick is down?
Yeah, it was. I could tell you that from somebody that lands in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Every hockey season, it's 100% gone.
I'm done trusting my listenership any longer after that. Yeah, it's all gone.
Stadium was demolished in 2015
Yeah.
Sad.
I mean, definitely.
Just did a quick Google.
I got like 5 people who said they just went by like 2 days ago. Are they hallucinating? Are they on the shrooms or what?
They're absolutely on the shrooms. They're 100% gone.
Feel free to send your other favorite corrections to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686 and see what you'll get Dan to believe.
That's sad. Well,
and we agree.
I'd like to think that if it was something more important, I would be a little tougher, that I didn't think there was any harm, whether that was accurate or not.
There's not.
And you know what part of it is? I want to believe it's still up because I enjoyed covering a lot of historic events at the Stick. Did you ever cover an event at Candlestick Park, Russo?
No, but I went to a baseball game there when I was about 13 years old, 13 or 14.
Was it
that's
cold?
the only time I'd ever been there.
Was it chilly? Because usually it could get chilly there, even in the summer.
It was around, it was around now.
Okay.
I did cover a series once at the new ballpark, and that is really nice.
I hear it's beautiful. Yeah, I've not ever been to it. Guards, you been to that one, the new one?
I have not been.
Not been.
No.
Yeah. All right, here's my stat for you, Russo, which you may already know. And I did my math fast, so I'm not responsible for accuracy, same as with Candlestick Park. I've got the Florida Panthers. They're just completed Stanley Cup title run again. In their 16 wins, right? Because you have to win 16 to win the Cup, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They were plus 51 in goals in 16 victories. And in their 7 losses, they were minus 13. If that doesn't tell you something about their dominance, I'm not sure what does.
Yeah, they led in the series for 255 minutes. That's an NHL record.
Wow.
I don't remember the last time you and I talked, but it felt like it was a close series, probably because it was 2-2. And then in hindsight, you look at all the numbers afterwards, and you realize that this thing was not close, that actually Florida widened the gap on the Oilers this year. And, look, they were missing Zach Hyman. That's a huge loss for them, right? Guy that could get to the net front, scores goals. You could see all series long that they were mixing and matching wingers to put with McDavid. They just couldn't find that guy to go to the net on a consistent basis. Obviously, Corey Perry had a really good postseason, but he seemed to hit a wall a little bit. And but it just, they are a dominant hockey team, and what's impressive is that it's not the same exact team as last year. Sure, the core is the same, but the management had done a really good job of making sure that they replace the guys that they had to let go for cap reasons, and they go out and they get guys on bargain contracts, but guys that fit in perfectly. The AJ Greers and the Thomas Nosheks and Nate Schmidt and those guys, and they added a hunger to this team without a doubt, which, you don't want a team that's well fed every year. You want to put in 4 or 5 guys on that roster that's going to be striving to win that cup and keep the motivation alive. And then obviously they've quote unquote lucked out, you could say, with the Kachuk injury in the Four Nations, because it allowed them in the LTI thing that's about to be patched up in the new CBA. It allowed them to go out and get Marchand and Jones and essentially be over the cap in the playoffs. So they were a dominant hockey team. They got great goaltending, great defense, and they could score like nobody else I've ever covered in the playoffs. I think they've wound up finishing with about 96 goals, which is, tremendous.
Well, I think, I don't have all the stats numbers in front of me, but you think playoffs and you assume there's going to be an occasional blowout, but it's likely there's going to be a lot more close games, right? And the fact that they were routinely winning 5-1, 5-0, is astonishing to me. I mean, they took an awful lot of the suspense out of it. So where are you on the D word? Because the question is 2 in a row enough to be classified as a dynasty in the current sports climate compared to obviously a long time ago when there wasn't as much movement, it wasn't as difficult to keep teams together, or is 2 not enough to be considered dynastic?
See, it's obviously everything's going to be based on what you define a dynasty is.
Yeah.
I believe they are, and I grew up an Islanders diehard, so I grew up in an actual dynasty era where that team won 4 straight cups. But in a cap era, this team has been dominant for 4 straight years. They had the best record in the NHL 4 years ago, and then they fired Andrew Burnett. They bring in Paul Maurice, and they win 11 rounds in the last 3 years. And, to do the math that we're both not good at, I mean, you can only win 12. So, to go to the Stanley Cup Final 3 years in a row in this day and age, to win back-to-back cups, I offended my colleague Joe Smith a couple of weeks ago when I said what the Panthers are doing is so much more impressive than when the Lightning won their cups, because that was in a COVID era where they had shortened seasons, and they go to the bubble, and then the next season when they won the cup, they played a 53-game schedule. Like it's not the same of what Florida has done here. And then Joe gave me the old, but imagine living in a bubble for 60 days. This is so much more impressive, what the Panthers have done. And what's scary, and here's a hot take, is that, there's a lot of people, and I'm one of them, that doesn't think dynasties are great for any league, because it takes the hope out of the rest of the NHL. Like, imagine the Florida Panthers right now. They got some tough decisions, and they're going to have to squeeze some guys under the cap now with guys like Bennett and Marchand and Ekblad and trying to figure this all out. But with the cap rising and rising and rising, and these guys, other than Bobrovsky, all fairly young, this could go on for a long, long time. Like, they have reigned dominance over the Eastern Conference for a while. And, just leaving that arena the other night, going on the ice the other night to get all the cup winners, and watching McDavid and Draisaitl and these guys leave the rink, they looked defeated. Like, they were angry. I've never seen 4 or 5 of those guys, Kane and Nurse and Skinner and Jeff Skinner, and they stormed out of the arena essentially, like within minutes after that game, in full suits. And it just feels like Edmonton, who just rolled over the Western Conference to get that throttled in the Stanley Cup Final, and to lose to Florida a second year in a row, it just seemed like they were at a loss. And as McDavid said after the game, it felt like they were beating their head against the wall, doing the same thing over and over again, and And it's not that they play poorly. It's that the Panthers just take the will out of you. They just play so well. They check so incredibly well. And I'm not just talking physically. I'm talking checking with their sticks. And up and down the lineup, they're as impressive as you're getting.
Any chance we can get McDavid on the rebound? Any chance we might be able to get him secure him in a deal?
Yeah, if we'll take number 96. I mean, the Wild already have a 97.
That's so, exactly, yeah.
You can't have two 97s. Maybe Kaprizov will give his number away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting today. McDavid had the presser, and he said it's too soon. He's in no rush to sign an extension.
Yeah.
Obviously, that all blew up, and and I had even been saying throughout the playoffs. I mean, this Kaprizov extension here with Minnesota, we've been talking about this for like 2 years with Dredd, and all postseason long, I didn't hear one word about McDavid, and now obviously it's now going to become a storyline. Yep. And I don't think he has any interest in signing an 8-year deal like Draisaitl. I think if he re-signs or extends his contract this year in Edmonton, it's going to be a 3-year deal, something short, which should be also an alarm bell to the fan base because that just shows you that he's not willing to commit right now. I don't think he just necessarily wants to get out of Dodge, but I don't think he's ready to commit the rest of his life to playing in Edmonton. And, if they can get him on a short-term deal, and by the way, that to me is the backup plan for the Wild, too. I mean, I haven't heard any Bill Guerin talking about he wants to sign Kaprizov to an 8-year deal. But in today's day and age, with the cap going up and up and up, to me, if you're a smart agent, you should go short on everything. Because, the cap could be 120, 130, 140 in the next couple of years. Really in the next 5 to 10 years, that's where it's going to head as long as, we don't have another global pandemic or something. And if I'm players like Kaprizov, I would take 3-4 year deals. I think that's a prudent thing to do.
Well, do you get any sense that that's how his people feel as well?
No, I like I said, this is just my own opinion. I have not talked to his people about that. The Wild definitely want to sign him in 8 years. I haven't heard anybody from the Wild even entertain talking short term with him. I don't think they want to go through this every couple of years because, if you sign him with a 3-year deal, now you're talking extension in 2 years. Mm-hmm. It really subtracts a year from it. But it's not the stupidest thing to do if you're Kaprizov and you love Minnesota and you want to stay here. But like McDavid, you want to, it's put up or shut up time. Show me that you could surround me with players that are going to go out and win a cup. If I'm Kaprizov, it's a way to, all right, I'll stick around where I love for next couple of years, but I also don't want, I'm going to punt this down the road a little bit and see that you can prove it to me. So, again, this is total me talking. This is what I would do if I were him. But that's totally, that's a different subject. Bill Guerin, if he's listening, is probably having a heart attack right now.
I am looking at cup winners for the 20s, starting with 2020. I've got Tampa Bay in 20 and 21, Colorado, Vegas, Florida, and Florida. What's wrong with this picture? Oh, my God. Are we ever in the heart of what be classified as long-standing hockey country? Not just here, but including here. Are we ever going to get to a point where we're not just messing with Sunbelt nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, look, Canada hasn't won a cup in 32 years, so to your point, it's not just here.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, and it's only going to get worse. Like, if that's the word you want to use, if you're a Minnesota diehard and you want to see, and you feel like only hockey hotbeds in Minnesota deserve a cup, which obviously this market definitely would crave for one. But it's only going to get worse. Like, they are going to expand, and we're not talking just 34 teams. It's going to go 36 and even more. Like, It is. They want to fill the United States with markets in big markets. And Atlanta's looking at getting a team. Houston's looking at getting a team. Arizona, the league would love to go back there at some point. And so it's just going to continue to get harder and harder and harder. And as long as Gary Bettman's the commissioner, he could not make it clearer that he has no interest in expanding the playoffs. So, it's just going to get harder to make the playoffs, let alone win cups. And so it's tough. And I've told you this 1,000 times, but after, from somebody, I've covered, 20 Stanley Cup Finals now. And I've covered Florida 3 years in a row. I obviously covered the Colorado series. I covered, the Vegas, Winnipeg, Washington series. Like, I really would love for Minnesota fans to experience something like this. It's it's like nothing else that you ever get to be, ever get to see than being in a Stanley Cup Final. And old North Star fans obviously remember the times that they were in it, and it's just been way too long in this market. And this is, obviously what Bill Guerin's trying to create here.
Did I note from you that another potential free agent center is now off the market?
Yeah, Matthew Shane re-signed today with Dallas. Now, I will say this is not like the Brock Nelson one, where I'm sure the Wild were very upset about, and not upset's the wrong word, but disappointed by. I got no impression that the Wild had any interest in going after Matthew Shane, and because of that, you could probably take that for what it's worth. And John Hines had Matthew Shane in Nashville, and just the fact that I've been hearing that the Wild really had no interest in him probably tells you that John had no interest in coaching Matthew Shane. So, I don't think this is we talked with Brock Nelson going to Plan B. I don't think that's any case. Obviously, Donato signed yesterday. The Wild have been there with him. They've had him. Bill Guerin's the one that let him go. So I don't think they were going after him. So I think trade route's pretty much the way that the Wild are going to conduct themselves here. Sam Bennett, I still think, is going to figure out a way to stay in Florida. I don't see why on earth he would try to leave there for a couple extra $1 million over a long-term deal. I just think he's in the perfect spot, and I think John Tavares has made it extremely clear that he would love to stay in Toronto. Now, if he's on the open market, if I'm the Wild, I'd go hard after him. He's a family guy too, so you could probably sell him on Minnesota. So we'll see what happens there, but he really wants to stay in Toronto. And obviously Marner is leaving, so they're going to have some sort of money after they figure out how much they're going to spend on Nyes. And so what's left in free agency? Not a lot. I mean, Jack Roslovic, Pius Suter. I mean, these are mid players, so these are not guys that are top six guys that are going to replace, say, Marco Rossi if he's traded. So I think the Bill is probably really investigating the trade route now. Not even probably. I know that to be true. But again, he wants to make his team better. He doesn't want to add futures. So he's on any type of trade that he's going to make, unless he is going to be able to flip the futures that he gets in one deal on another subsequent deal. I think that he'd like to, add offense to this team, whether that's up the middle or certainly on the wing as well.
A couple texts have come in. This is, Dr. Mike has sent me this text, I think, once a day for about the last month. Could Rossi center a Kaprizov line? He is small, but has playmaking ability. Kaprizov, Rossi, Boldy, let's go. What am I missing? Probably many things, writes Dr. Mike.
No, I mean, they were together for a long time last year. Well, actually, no, you're right. It would have been, Kaprizov and Rossi were together, but it was always with Zuccarello would have been on the third line. So they were at times together. And Rossi has definitely centered that top line for a lot of last season. So, I think it could happen. To me, it has nothing to do with size with him. I just think that they want to, upgrade in some capacity. And I think when it comes, and you look at the Stanley Cup Final and how guys are played, I just think that Bill Guerin, when he looked at Marco Rossi, I think he likes him as a person, but in a certain fit at a certain price point. But I think to go and win a cup, I think that he'd like to get bigger and a harder checker in that situation. You look at Florida and the way they're built up the middle. I mean, Alexander Barkov, Sam Bennett, Anton Lundell. I mean, these are fast, aggressive players, physical players. And then you have Noshik on the fourth line. So, that's probably the reason for Rossi. But no, if Marco Rossi is back, absolutely, I think that you could have that line without a doubt.
651 guy, Dallas is $500,000 under the cap with 18 players signed, so they have to make a move. Would the Wild be able to make any deals with Dallas?
My guess is that if it's a really good player that Dallas is moving, they're probably not going to want to send him to a division rival. Especially in a league where it's so important to be good in your division to make the playoffs, and only up to 4 or 5 teams can make it in one division. So my guess is probably not. Mason Marchment is somebody that I could see them moving, and I do think that he's a Bill Guerin type player, but he's pretty expensive, and I don't see a real need for him. Jason Robertson, somebody that's been rumored to be potentially on the move, but he makes a lot of money. He's going to have to be re-signed because remember he signed sort of a little higher end bridge deal. And so again, I would think that they'd want to move him out east if that's probably something that happens. So I don't. But I will say to the texter, I find Dallas to be one of the most intriguing teams to watch this offseason for that very reason. They're basically 50,000 under the cap. They're going to have to clearly make some moves. I think that, when you go to the extent of firing your coach after a conference final, it tells you that right now getting to the third round is not good enough for them. And obviously they don't want a coach that's going to sit there and alienate the starting goalie and Jake Ottinger the way that Pete DeBoer did in that final game. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Dallas, and I'm going to be really fascinated by what Jim Nill has up his sleeve this offseason.
I'm looking at a headline that we explored in much depth during the first hour of this show. This is out of the Washington Post. Kill yourself. Toxic mix of betting, social media fuels athlete abuse, and it lays out largely talking about, in this case, baseball, the Washington Nationals, several players saying, we get about 5 of these a week. It's sad, but it's not even all that surprising, whether it's threatening me or telling me to kill myself or threatening even my family. Does this occur? What do you hear about this sort of seemingly toxic mix? The melding of big-time gambling at leagues running towards sports gambling as opposed to the old days when they ran at least the other direction. Does it apply to hockey and hockey players too? What have you heard on that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I did a poll with a bunch of Wild players this year, and some of the things a couple players showed me some of the messages they get. Now I can't, go A to B that it's 100% because of gambling.
Right.
But it's certainly this day and age with social media. I mean, Stuart Skinner's wife just did a podcast with somebody up in Canada where she talked about, just death threats that she was getting, throughout the playoffs and, just nasty stuff on her Instagram. Ryan Hartman, I know that his wife has gotten it, after the whole incident this year was it Tim Stutzla up in Ottawa. It's just this day and age with social media. Like fans just think they could say anything to players and to anybody, not even just players, just to anybody online. There's just been this like desensitization of human beings online and people saying just the most vile stuff to each other. I think gambling does have a lot to do with it. In some instances, it's not just gambling anymore. It's prize picks and, all the parlay sites where you can sit there and if one guy doesn't get, is half a shot under what you bet, I mean, all of a sudden you lose a bunch of money and you go out and you go after the player online. And so, I have definitely heard this all throughout sports. Again, I don't think it's just all gambling. I think it's just, there's just some nastiness online on Twitter and things like that. I will say my mental health is so much better since I really stopped looking at my mentions. A lot of people tried to convince me to do it. I don't love it because I feel like I'm a lot less accessible to the fans that want to have conversations. But, unless I'm asking for questions for a podcast or a mailbag, I do my best not to scroll through it because it just, there's just, and it's not that I'm not getting death threats and things like that, although I've gotten it before. But it's just the overall negativity, even just when the Wild stink, it's not even people coming after me, but when you scroll through your mentions on an everyday basis and every tweet is just negative, it just puts you in a mood. And so I don't know. I think gambling does have a lot to do with, in certain instances, and the threats that players get. But I just think that fans in general now just think, especially if you're an opposing fan, that you can go after other players on other teams. Certainly they do different beat writers too. It's crazy. Like if you're covering a game and say the Wild are playing Edmonton, my mentions will be just filled of hate, whether I tweet stuff or not. It's almost become this thing where fans now find the beat writers from the other team and just start ripping on them because they know that's the easiest way to get the fans up in arms too. So, I could talk about social media forever.
Congratulations on your effort to go cold turkey because it does sound like it's been effective for you. I hope you're able to stick with it because I think you probably will be healthier as a result of it.
Yeah, healthy has never been my middle name, but
healthier.
Healthier is right. I was just telling Guardsy, by the way, and I'm going to crowdsource this, and I will look at my mentions. I got home from this road trip, and a tree in my backyard is just completely dead. Absolutely not healthy.
What the hell happened to it?
I got to find out. I have no idea. Like, a pine tree is just totally brown. I Googled it. It could be one of, 50 things. Like, I got pests back there. I've overwatered it, underwatered it. It's got winter damage. Who knows? So if you know why a pine tree could be all brown, tweet me at Russo Hockey, and I will look at my mentions today.
So in this case, you will waive your desire to ignore your mentions to try to get to the bottom of this. Okay, that's fair enough. You'll get some mentions.
Well, I kind of have to because Lepanta's golfing today. So who cares that I've been gone for a month? The podcast he wants to do tonight is at 10 p.m. So I asked for questions. So I do have to go through my social media and pick out those questions anyway. But, as usual, Anthony's decided to inconvenience to me and make me do it at middle of the night.
Well, 10 p.m. seems dangerous because it's more likely that one or both of you will be sauced by then or buzzed by then. And doesn't that contribute to the possibility you're going to say something that you regret?
Absolutely. Speaking of social media, I had an editor at the Star Tribune once that told me that gave me a deadline of when I needed to stop tweeting because he was worried that I was tweeting too much at 1 or 2 a.m. So, for obvious reasons.
Obviously knew you well. Thank you, Russo, as always. We'll be in touch. Appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Russo Radio on the back end of the National Hockey League postseason. It's now over. It's possible that the National Basketball Association postseason will end tonight as well. I'm assuming we'll explore that and what else in the top 5.
Nafisa Collier update, Kevin Durant update, Tyrese Halliburton update with Game 6 tonight.